So have you ever been so fucking stuck to find out who the greatest superhero of all time is that you have employed two good friends and two fantastic comic book show presenters to help you out?
We have, and that's why we have enlisted the help of these two, and we are going to try and figure out who the greatest superhero is of all time. Nerds, assemble!
Okay, so we are in genuinely now.
This is honestly.
Yeah, honestly, the final episode of the round of 16. We are going to push through to the quarterfinals after today, and we are so excited to do so. And we are going to do so with Green Arrow versus Cyclops. I think
Your boy, Cyclops.
there is no mistake. Like, we talk about biases, but genuinely, Cyclops is my favorite character in comics.
There is no stronger a bias here than Dan with Cyclops.
There isn't, and for that reason,
Likes himself a Robin though as well. To be fair,
He does love a Robin.
I do love a Robin. But
Nothing wrong with Robin.
so to begin with, I'm going to abstain. I'm going to hold back at the moment, and I'm very interested to see what you guys think on this issue. So, who wants to take it away?
I can put a pro for Scott Summers.
Okay.
Throw in a pro for Scott Summers.
I mean, the guy has led the X-Men in a world that basically wanted them all dead, right? The guy has
30, 40 years.
Yeah, for 30, 40 years. He's totally gone against the grain, if you like, right? And not only that, when it came to A versus X, the guy actually stood up for his team on a whole nother level against heroes. I mean, that takes serious dedication. If you want to talk about a man's dedication, there ain't no more dedicated than Scott Summers. I mean, that is the boy.
Well,
Green Arrow.
well, now as far as Green Arrow's concerned, you want to talk about dedication? We're talking about a guy who lost his fortune in the 70s, teamed up with Hal Jordan, traveled across America to highlight real political and social issues that were prevalent at the time. And let's not forget the fact that around this time, drugs in comics was such a taboo subject. And then we're talking about the infamous cover where Speedy was injecting heroin, and then there was Green Arrow going, "Oh my god, my ward is a junkie," and all that sort of stuff. Now this
bitch.
well, yeah, dump the drugs. Now we're saying that, and also one thing against Scott Summers. Now, can Scott Summers fire a boxing glove arrow?
Would Scott Summers want to fire a boxing
Well,
glove?
he's turned me.
Can he?
I don't care about Cyclops anymore. It's fucking a boxing glove arrow win.
Boxing glove arrow goes through to the next round.
Just that. Let's put them both out. Let's put them both out. Boxing glove arrow goes through.
Although, okay, no, in all seriousness about the boxing glove arrow. Now, it's an awesome arrow. Although you think the boxing glove arrow is the worst, you should see the other ones. Right, before we carry on with the serious subject,
Tangent.
some hilarious fucking arrows he's had.
Hang on, a side segment. Hilarious
Top
arrows.
five
Number 5. Right, one of them was okay. There was a villain holding a stick of dynamite. This is back in Silver Age, by the way. He was holding a stick of dynamite. Oh, I'm gonna blow up this whole thing. He took an arrow out of his quiver, fired it, and he goes, "Oh, it's the rain arrow," which is a shower head on the top of the arrow. Excuse the fucking dialogue. Oh no, you think that's good?
Number 4.
Number 4.
You have to know 4.
I'm not gonna do that.
I think you've used the best, to be honest.
Yeah.
No. This one is the best.
So excited.
Right, the fountain pen arrow.
Oi.
Right now, they were on at Green Arrow and Speedy were on a rooftop. And there were these bank robbers trying to get away. He goes, "Oh, they're getting away. It's okay, Speedy. I'm going to use the fountain pen arrow." Pulls that arrow out of his quiver, fires it. It attaches itself on the back bumper of their car with the fountain pen on the road, and it draws them
Oh my god, that's genius!
to their hideout.
Genius! That is genius. But my issue is
What
why
about-
has he got a fountain pen arrow?
Because it's Trace is the
crazy.
fucking bad guy.
Listen. When he's standing in the queue for the bank and he has to do a check, and they're like, "Listen, you need to sign this," he's like, "No problem."
Cha-ching!
What about that issue where someone needed satisfying and he got out his dildo arrow?
Oh no, that would be Green Arrow Max, the DC equivalent. But no, in all seriousness, aside from the ridiculous arrows he had in the Silver Age, look, Superman and Batman don't come unscathed in the Silver Age. It's all ridiculous. But the fact is, Oliver Queen was a man who lost his fortune and fought for the common man, despite being a pampered billionaire for quite a huge chunk of his life. The thing was, he was there with Green Lantern, who we debated previously. So Green Lantern was all the sort of, I just sort of report to who's right, that kind of thing. Whereas Green Arrow just really focused on things like racism, poverty, all this kind of stuff. It made a huge cultural impact. Much more than people would think, especially if, people who've never heard of Green Arrow, they watch something like Arrow, which is a good show, by the way.
Oh, by the way, update from me and Dan when we said we liked the show. Yeah, we don't like the show anymore.
It's funny because I'm the reverse. I didn't like it when it started, and I think it's got better.
I'm sorry, Dave. Dale.
Dale, do you know what show you're on? It's called the Dan and Dale.
Look at the table!
Half of these are his.
I purely wanted to do that for the audio.
For God's sake.
Look.
Oh, Dave.
Another time, someone could just come in from off camera and go, yeah.
Did you call me? My name's Dave.
There's already going to be a bias in the comments. Oh, fuck Jimskull, he's too drunk. Anyway,
He doesn't even know what he's saying. Dale.
Okay. The fact is, those arrows I mentioned aren't in the show.
Disappointingly.
Is that probably why you don't like it?
That would make it amazing.
It would. Right, Dan, I want to know what you got to say about Cyclops.
Look, let's not.
I'm keeping you fucking fair.
Let's not beat around the bush here. Everything that you have said about Green Arrow, like he fights for racism, he fights for poverty.
Scott Summers. No brainer.
Scott Summers, listen, you are right, and you are right times 10, because Scott Summers has defined inequality. He has stood up for inequality, and he has stood up for an ideal his whole life, his whole comic book career. Never has a comic book character been more consistent. Never has a comic book character evolved so much and so eloquently that the distorted, possibly ideal that he stands for now is a perfect evolution of where he came from and where he started from. It is a beautiful sort of turnaround, like the fact that he is in the Magneto position. What that doesn't do, which is what Hank McCoy thinks it does, what that doesn't do is show that, oh, this is a character that's been skewed and distorted. This is a character that, because his ideal that he stands for now is so real and so based on what is actually true and what would actually exist in this universe, that it makes us go back and look at Magneto and think, maybe he had a point. Maybe he had a point in all of this. Maybe Scott has actually not distorted himself and turned around, but maybe the fact that he has actually evolved into something where we think, actually, maybe the harder truth might be true. Not only that, we said at some point during tonight, possibly, I don't know, we said a lot of
previous
things.
shows.
We said a lot of things off camera, but we said that Civil War.
No one's
I think we said this off camera, but we said that Civil War was a story where it's like hero versus hero, but really all the writers and the Marvel Universe side with Captain America.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
AVX is a story where you can be on one side and you can not be right or wrong.
Yeah,
you can side with him
Much
or you
more
don't. And
even-handed.
I genuinely do side with him. Apart from that, I want to move on from the ideal. He
hell.
is...
He's got his doctorate out here, fucking
He-
thesis.
I genuinely like. I love this character. Like, there are moments with this character. I don't know. I honestly can't even remember. I think it might even be Civil War that this is from. It's a Civil War X-Men tie-in, where Scott Summers unleashes his power, and actually he does it in the
full power.
It's full power.
Right.
And he's standing next to Wolverine, and it happens in Schism actually as well. But he takes his glasses off, unleashes his full power, and Wolverine looks at him and goes, "Now I know why you were the leader."
Yeah.
And that happens a lot with Scott Summers. He's a character with so much on his shoulders, with so much to do, with so much to be, with so much to live up to inherit in Xavier's throne as the leader of the mutants, and he has done that so beautifully and so perfectly and so eloquently that I think not only is he the best Marvel character, he is my favorite character ever, and I think he outshines anything Green Arrow even comes close to. I don't think they are comparable.
Ooh, those are harsh words. I mean, Green Arrow, for a guy who many people just said was a Batman meets Robin Hood in the early days, has come a long way.
I agree.
And in the 70s with Danny O'Neill writing here.
Yeah.
Danny O'Neill?
Danny O'Neill, yeah.
He took that character to another level. He was the liberal. He had his agenda. He was there on the streets fighting crime for the everyman, and he has still maintained that in a world where other characters have said, you know, what you're doing is wrong, you take it the step too far. He said, no, in order for progress to happen, you need to take it that step far. Whereas in the 70s, a lot of people would argue and say that, in fact, not the 70s, sorry, but throughout the X-Men, is that whilst Cyclops, Scott Summers, has been the mainstay in the X-Men, he's always been there for them, that he's always kind of dropped to the back in favour for characters like Wolverine, who just are leaps and bounds. Let me finish.
Okay.
Who are just, you know, they end up like, Wolverine now transcends the X-Men, in my opinion. You know, he is one of...
Did a long time ago.
He did a long time ago.
Yeah.
He's up there with Cap, Thor, and Iron Man.
Yeah.
He is, you know, one of the big names, Spider-Man, obviously. You know, he's one of the big names, whereas Cyclops has been, I don't want to use the word relegated, but, you know, he's been left in the X-Men universe, and that's where he has been, and that's where he's always stayed, whereas a character like Green Arrow has evolved. With that being said, I think 3 words sum up my feelings on Scott Summers perfectly, and those are Cyclops was right. Cyclops, especially now, is amazing. His angle, I totally agree with everything you said. His angle is perfect. And unlike a character like, you know, we say evolution of character, and the one that we always jump to is Dick Grayson. He's, you know, he's the character that has grown up throughout his lifetime. And Dick Grayson was a child, and he is now an adult. Scott Summers has always been an adult, like maybe in his early 20s, but you know,
he was a teenager and now he's a man.
But I would say
not physically,
but not a child,
not physically.
So you know, visually he's stayed quite similar. He's always been the big tough guy, and so not only has there's not been a physical change, but as far as a change in character goes, I'd say there's been none stronger, especially in the last 3 years or so with the
since
Avengers.
House of M.
And the whole stuff with Avengers versus X-Men, I think, you know, and Avengers versus X-Men had everyone in it. We're talking Cap, Thor, Wolverine, Iron Man, Spider-Man, everyone, and no one shone quite as much as Cyclops. And I would also go as far to say that he is a much better leader than Professor X was ever of the X-Men. You know, I think that he makes the tough decisions. Whereas Professor X, one thing that always annoyed me about him was Professor X's treatment of the X-Men characters, and I think it stood out no clearer than in Dark Phoenix Saga. Professor X had been gone a while, Cyclops had taken charge. He had honed in Wolverine, he'd gotten into his full potential, Colossus, all those characters. And then Professor X walks back in, and he's telling Wolverine, get in the danger room. You've got to do this because I tell you to.
Oh, I would argue strongly against that. Prof X is a strategist, and that's something that Scott Summers has developed, but still is not at the same elevation that Professor X is.
I find Professor X is stuck in his way. Yes, he is a strategist, but he will not go outside his
boundaries. He doesn't adapt as well as Cyclops
Cyclops is the epitome
Professor
of
X
evolution.
has got his rules, right?
As a
Professor
character.
X has got his rules. He's got his boundaries that he won't cross.
Yeah.
But Cyclops will cross those boundaries if he thinks that it's right.
If it means
Which
the
he did in A versus
further
X,
evolution of his species.
Can I say what puts me on the fence? Okay, and actually you've kind of I'm falling to one side at the moment, but I tell you what puts me on the fence between them. Scott Summers, right, as a character, has the biggest superiority complex I have ever seen in my entire life. And this is what pisses me
I
off.
ain't denying that.
And let me explain why. He, like you said, has all this pressure on his shoulders, and he knows it. And he puts it across to everybody. Like, he is the person who's in charge of Hope, right? He has to make sure that she's... No, dude. No, you're not that important. For God's sake, you're not even close to that important, right? Your power, as good as it is so minimal compared to so many other people. Know your place, know your role. And I've always felt that about Scott Summers. When he was with the Phoenix, it was like, yes, I'm chosen. And I found that as a character was a huge character flaw. And really, in my opinion, didn't match what Scott Summers needed to be, what Cyclops needed to be for Professor X, for the X-Men, to get people with mutant abilities to be accepted into society. And that I found immensely difficult to accept. And on the Green Arrow side, because it wouldn't be fair to say something negative about Cyclops without saying something positive here, to tell you why I'm on the fence with Green Arrow, is that the guy...
Boxing glove.
Well, do you know what? It is something to do with that. It's the fact that the guy has an extraordinarily large versatility, right? He is still a human. He is like that with Batman. You know, he's not got any innate special power. What makes him so special? What is it? He hasn't got his money at times. He has had it back over the period. Back and forward. But to be honest with you, what makes him so special is his will again and his
tenacity.
Strength, tenacity. It's all up here for him. It's all up here. And it's so strong up here that it's put him up there with the JLA. It's put him going round with, you know, this guy's got a ring. He can will shit into the world. This guy, all he's got is some versatile arrows, all right? For me, that is something that I've never seen in any universe, and that's what keeps me on the fence.
Let me offer a counter to that. Sure. Because I have one.
Right.
Oh.
Scott Summers' power...
Get drunk.
Really, yeah, he can shoot powerful beams of force from his eyes, right? That's
He's not a Mega Man.
That's not no. He's not Iceman.
No.
But that's
not
not really
Iceman.
his power. His power is like you look back at the earliest X-Men issues. He has been the inheritor of the mutant race since day one, and that's what I was going to interject with what you said, and that's what I'm going to say about you said. Like that has been on his shoulders. What is perfect about Scott Summers is exactly what you've just said, right? Is exactly the fact that he does have a superiority complex. Is exactly the fact that he does say, no, it's me, it's me, it's me. Why? Because he's been told that his entire life.
But by who? Prof X, right?
Prof X, and also
Prof X
he's been
needed him
expected
to be like that.
Yeah, he did, but also that's been expected of him for his entire life. He's always been that guy.
But
he's had that hanging over his head.
You know, that's a good point, but why hasn't he developed to the point where he's realised his role, his place? And just when he's doing that, and just when he's getting to that point, what does Marvel do? They do A versus X, and what happens to him? He becomes ridiculously powerful, and they push that superiority.
Can I jump in there?
I haven't finished my point. I'll let you go afterwards, but I
go
haven't
for it,
finished
go
my
for
point.
it.
I haven't finished my point. Because my point is, you say, why hasn't he developed? But that's the point is that he has developed, but he just might not be right. Like this is Marvel going, like this is, you see those documentaries of all the Marvel creators sitting around the table, and the result of that is what Cyclops is now. It is not him being completely right and completely the good guy. It is the result of 30 years of continuity where he has had people from Prof X, from the rest of the mutant race, from people like Quentin Quire, from even Jean Grey to some extent for a long point, right? And he has had that on his shoulders. So yeah, he has a superiority complex because he has gone through some shit and he is in the right place that he should be in terms of that character.
You know, if Cyclops didn't have any powers or any abilities, you know who his closest comparison would be? Rick Grimes in The Walking Dead. He is the guy who stands up, goes, I'm taking charge because everyone expects me to because of what I do in and then it gets to a
It's
point
a shame
where
Rick Grimes
people,
isn't in this, you know.
He was to start with.
He was. What happened?
Against Thor.
Oh, right.
But he's the guy who, when people turned around to him and they went, step down because you're doing the wrong thing, he said, no, I'm not. You're going to follow me because I'm going to cross the line because I know it's time to cross the line.
I've never thought about that before, but I completely agree.
He is, and he has that superiority complex. He's the character who, when someone would turn around and say, well, if it's such a burden, let me help you, he'd turn around and go, No, because he,
How
secretly
does that
there's a
counterbalance
part
when
of-
he? How does that counterbalance when he's with Jean Grey and then he flip flops to Emma Frost? That is like, for me, I sat there and I read. I love. You've got to understand, guys. I love Marvel. I love the X-Men. I do love Scott Summers. I really do. But for a guy who's got such a superiority complex, for a guy who had this total love and fascination, right, with Jean, all of a sudden she's gone and Emma Frost is the one.
I have a counter to that. In fact, I have a.
It doesn't surprise me.
In fact, I have a long count. In fact,
I'll get there eventually.
I'm going to hand it over to you next, but like I have a long counter to that. I'm going to give you a short one.
Yeah,
in the fact that when you're reading the comics at the moment, do you really think that Emma Frost is a replacement to Jean Grey, or is she more a substitute? That's my view on that, right?
Difficult to answer that question.
James McCall, let's start the ball rolling. Where are you at with this?
The thing is, you've put across some very valid points about Cyclops. The thing is, okay, Green Arrow hasn't really led any teams, not the one I've read, and while he's a very strong, brilliant character, I've not seen him, pushed to the capacity that Scott Summers has. So I can see how this can be a difficult battle. However, things like in recent stories, I say recent, Identity Crisis. Do you remember that one? He narrated the whole thing. He oversaw, and was involved in the collapse of the JLA.
Meltzer's Identity Crisis.
Yeah, Brad Meltzer. Yeah. And it was a really serious thing, and he really was crucial to that story. But the thing is, he's not really led a team, and this really is.
He's had moments though where he's had
had
leadership
so many
skills.
moments.
They do occur when he's actually Superman's away, Batman's away. He's up there, he's up there sitting in the tower, and he's having to orchestrate stuff.
Well, even
Absolutely.
look
That's
at the
happened.
most recent storyline we had. Look at Age of Ultron. I don't know if you've read that, but he's the guy. He's the man. He's the guy that takes charge. People are missing, and I'm here.
We're talking about Green Arrow.
Yeah.
Hawkeye.
You're talking about Hawkeye.
Boo on you, sir!
All I'm saying is,
He got mixed up between a Pony Archer and a Green Archer. This is just
all I'm
not
saying that is a point against. Too similar. That's all I'm saying. Too similar. Oh, it's like
Dan,
What I was about to say is that. Oh man. What I was about to say is that.
Keep drinking.
Is that Green Arrow is the great thing about his role in the JLA is that he is our eyes into the JLA. He is the Batman. Yeah, he doesn't have any superpowers, but Batman's fucking Batman.
Point of view, isn't
And I
it?
hate to say this, in a way relatable, and I don't know if anyone knows this, I fucking hate the idea that you relate to superheroes. I think it's fucking stupid. But that's another thing.
another thing.
That's a big issue.
That's a big issue. Yeah, exactly.
I'll be back for that. But the thing is, with this, okay, if we're going to look at it at that angle, yeah, you could relate to Green Arrow, especially when he's lost his fortune. But the thing is, in the crucial times where he's been in the JLA, he's fucking got his fortune, but he still thinks like he's someone who doesn't. But carry on.
I've got to push you for a decision.
Gotcha.
Are you Green Arrow or Cyclops? Have we convinced you?
No,
Are you Green Arrow?
I mean, look, I'm on the fence. I've got a personal bias against Green Arrow. The thing
Against
is,
Green Arrow.
For Green Arrow.
For Green Arrow, sure.
For Green Arrow. But you've raised so many brilliant things with Cyclops, especially how he's led the team and how he's involved with such really big things in superhero comics, especially things that led on to other big things and everything like that. Green Arrow is yet to do that. He's one of my favorite. Green Arrow is one of my favorite characters, but he's not had the impact Cyclops has. So I fucking hate to say this, but it's got to be Green Arrow. Not Green Arrow.
Green Arrow, yeah, it's got to be Green Arrow.
Cyclops.
You mean Cyclops?
It's got to be
The beers
Cyclops.
are coming too.
Look,
too
come
big.
on. Look at the fucking table we got here.
Dale, let's put a cap in this.
I'm Cyclops. You're Hawkeye.
I'm Cyclops.
I'm really on the fence, but I have to go Cyclops.
Okay,
And
guys. Cyclops
Cyclops.
goes through.
All
There's
of
nothing
this.
in this.
We're done. We are done, guys. We made
Okay,
it.
guys, thank you very much for joining us, both of you. I mean, I've had a great time filming this.
You thank us for being here. Hey, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
been brilliant.
Yeah, thank you very
Our
much.
pleasure,
We've
our
had an
pleasure.
absolute pleasure being on this.
Don't forget to check out Talk Comics and You Have Issues.
Is there any Twitter, Facebook, anywhere people can follow you?
I'll go first, of course.
Stalkers.
YouTube.com/Jimsicle for some You Have Issues goodness. But also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Twitter @Jimsicle. I'm not a very active Twitter sort of person, but there will be a couple of gems here and there. But also, there's Facebook.com/Jimsicle has issues. The links will be in the description.
Everything will be in the description.
Oh gosh, just type in Talking Comics or Talk Comics into Google and you will find an immense amount.
Okay.
And you know what? If you type in Dan and Dale's comic book show, we still aren't the first people to show up.
But it will!
Okay, we're wrapping this up. Don't forget to check out Friday's episode. Something's happening we don't want to know, and it's, what is it?
It's incredible.
It's incredible. And we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next time.
We're done!
Hey!
Fucking hey, what a wrap!
Good game, sir. Good game.
I'm happy that Cyclops got a clean sweep.
Yeah,